Again, it's a rich thing.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video we're going to learn how to automate working with Excel files using Python. So let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to learn today how to work with Excel files in Python, how to automate certain procedures, and this can be quite useful because of course Excel has a lot of interesting functions, a lot of ways in which you can manipulate your data, sort your data, change your data, but in the end Excel is not a programming language. It has some aspects that can feel a little bit like programming, but in the end it's not a solid programming language. So maybe you know how to do something which you want to do on your Excel files in Python and you don't know how to do it in Excel. And in today's video, we're going to learn how we can actually work on Excel sheets using Python. And for this, we're going to start with the very basics of the module that we're going to use today. We're going to see how we can open workbooks, how we can load workbooks, save workbooks, access individual cells and so on, how we can do stuff like that. And then we're going to look at a practical example, something that could happen or that you could want to do. We're just going to look at some sample data and how we can do certain operations on that sample data using Python. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a command line cmd, for example, and we're going to say pip install openpyxl. This is the library that we're going to use today, pyxl, openpyxl. And this is what we're going to need in order to manipulate Excel files. So first of all, we're going to start with an existing Excel file, and for this we're going to create it. So we're going to open up Excel, the actual software, and we're going to create a very basic workbook. So we're just going to have a blank workbook here. We're going to have some values, 10, 20, 30, 40, come on, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90, and then somewhere here, hello world, for example, and we're going to see that we're going to be able to access those values in Python. So we're going to save that, in this case on the desktop, as book1, and it should be saved. There you go. So now we can go there and rename this to myfile.xlsx. We can drag and drop that into PyCharm up here. And now we can start with the coding. So we can say import openpyxl. And then we're going to say workbook is going to be openpyxl .load workbook, and we're going to load myfile.xlsx. Like that. And in order to get the active sheet, because an Excel file has multiple sheets, in order to get the active sheets, we're going to say sheet equals workbook.active. And we can change the sheet title, for example, by saying sheet title changed, like that. Now, if we just want to print some values without actually doing some changes, even though this is already a change, but if you just want to get some information from that Excel file, what you can do is you can just say print sheet, and like in a dictionary, you can just print or you can just access by specifying the cell. So in this case, A1 is the first cell, and if I run this, we should be able to see the value 10. Actually, this is the cell. In order to get the value, you need to say dot value. So now we should get the value 10. There you go. And of course, I can copy that and I can change this to A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, and so on. And we would get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Actually, we get 80. Oh, yeah, of course, because this is not how it works, because we can actually, we're listing the columns, so we would actually have to do A1, then B1, then C1, and then A2, and B2, and C2, and so on. Now this should produce the results that we expected. But this is how you can just basically look up the values of a certain cell. And in the same way, you can also set those values. So we can say sheet A1, I want this to be, I don't know, 60, for example, or let's say 900. Now, of course, if I just run this, nothing is going to happen because it's not going to change anything. If I actually want the changes to be saved, I need to say workbook.save, and I need to specify the same file name, myfile.xlsx. Of course, I can also save it in a different file, but if I do it like that, and if I run this, and if I open it up, then you're going to be able to see that, first of all, this title is changed, and then this value here is 900. So we successfully manipulated the Excel workbook and also the Excel sheet. Now, of course, you can enter all sorts of things. So, for example, instead of entering 900, I can also enter hello world. I can also enter the true value. So, for example, I can say just true without quotation marks, and it's going to be true in Excel as well. Or I can say even stuff like, let's say I want to have, I don't know, F8 should be the string equals B2 plus C3. And if I now run this, you will be able to see that in the cell F8, I will have actually the value 140 because it's actually B2 plus C3. So this is a formula and it's executed here as well. So this is a basic, the basic way in which we can read from and write into those workbooks. And one thing that I want to show you here as well is we can create new sheets. So we can say, for example, workbook.create sheet, and we can call this second, for example. And if we now want to change the sheets, even if we don't create them ourselves, so let's say a workbook has like 5 sheets. If we want to navigate through those, we can just say sheet equals and then workbook, and we can treat the workbook as a dictionary where I can say second, for example, here. And then I can say sheet A1 is what is up, like that. And if I now run this and I open the file, you're going to see that we have a second sheet here, and this cell says what is up. So we can navigate like that. One thing that you need to keep in mind is if you want to change something in the workbook is not allowed to be open in Excel already. So now let's go ahead and create a new workbook instead of loading an existing one. So we're going to delete all of that and say workbook equals openpyxl.workbook. So this is creating an Excel file inside of Python and then saving it without having an existing Excel file to manipulate. And here we can just say again, sheet equals workbook.active. There you go. And now we can do the same things, right? We can go ahead and say sheet 1 A1 equals 10, for example, and we can go ahead in the end and say workbook.save. We can save this as new book.xlsx. There you go. And if I do this, you're going to see that down here we have new book. And if I open this, you will see that we have the value 10 in here as we wanted it. So this works. And if I run this again, you're going to see it's just going to be overwritten. So there's no problem here. Now let's look at a couple of things that we can do here. First of all, an easy thing is we can insert rows and insert columns. So let's say we have something like sheet A1 is 10 and sheet, what is it? B1 and C1 is something as well. So basically the same thing that we have in the other file. We're now going to copy that, paste that, and now this is going to be 2. And this is going to be 3. Let's say we have that. So if I run this, you're going to see that we have some values here in the beginning up here in the left. Maybe I should zoom in. As you can see, we have those values. Now, if I want to insert a column or a row in the beginning, what I can do is I can say, okay, let's say sheet.insert rows. And I can say, okay, where should this row be inserted? It should be inserted in the first position or in the first row. And if I do that, you're going to see that we now have a blank row, even though we set everything to A1, B1, and C1. Now we have a blank row here. We can do the same thing with the columns. So insert columns at 1. The default amount is going to be 1. You can change that and increase that to more. So let's first see what happens. There you go. You can see we have a new column and we have a new row. It's basically the same as clicking here and say insert and so on. That's basically what we're doing. And now what we can also do is we can change the amount. I think this is the amount keyword here. Amount 5, for example, would mean 5 rows at position 1. Let's say 3 columns at column 1. If we run that, you're going to see that we don't have just 1 new row and 1 new column, but we have 5 new rows and 3 new columns. So this is something very basic. One thing that we can also do, let's just get rid of the columns and the rows. We can also merge cells. So we can say sheet.merge cells from A1 to C3, for example. We can merge this into one big cell. And then, of course, if I want to change something, if I want to change the content, I would have to address A1 because A1 is the beginning of the cell. I'm not even sure if maybe if I address B2, it's not going to work as well. We're going to test that in a second. So let's open this up. You can see this is now one big cell. And if I say sheet A1 equals hello world, and I run this and I open the file, you will see that the content has changed. Now, let's see what happens if we change this to, let's say to C1, because it's part of the range. I'm not sure if it's not enough to just pick any cell. No, it doesn't work because it's a merged cell and this is read-only. So we have to specify A1 here. Now, we can also move something. So let's say we don't merge anything, but we want to move all these values here to the right and down maybe, because they're in the upper left corner. What we can do is we can say sheet.move range, and we can move the range A1 to C3. We want to move them 2 or let's say 6 rows to the right, and the columns want to move them 4 columns. No, actually, we want to move them 6 rows down and 4 columns to the right. So this is how we do that. And rows, actually, not row. If I run this, oh, we actually ran that already. So if I open this, you're going to see that this is moved down here. And I think if we want to move to the left, we would just have to specify some negative stuff. So let's say we want to move C1 to C3, and we want to move that 0 columns, or actually -1 columns and 0 rows. So this would move it to the left, I think. Let's see if this is true. And yeah, as you can see, those were moved to the left and overrode what was in the B column. So this is something very basic, and I think we now know the basics. If you want to look into other functions or parameters, you can just look at the documentation of this module. So those are the basics, and now we're going to look at something that is a little bit more practical. All right, so let us look into a practical example. We're going to use the Excel file that I have prepared here, and inside of that Excel file, I have some data. First of all, some basic title, and then we have name, we have birthday, we have age, and we have net worth. As you can see, the age column is empty. We have some birthdays, And the goal is now to calculate the age based on those birthdays. Now, I don't say that you cannot do this with Excel. You can definitely do that with Excel in some way. But I'm one of those people, I know how to do it in Python right away. I would have to Google how to do it in Excel. Maybe it's easy, maybe it is not. But there are definitely a couple of processes that maybe can be done in Excel, maybe cannot be done in Excel, but can definitely be done in Python easily. This is just one example. We're going to use the birthday and we're going to use today's date to dynamically calculate the age. Now, of course, one thing that you can do in Excel is you can just enter a formula and it's going to be up to date every time. If you do it in Python, you have to rerun it every time. But for now, we're just going to use this as an example. We're going to take the birthday and calculate the age, and then we're going to do one thing with the net worth here. So what we need to know here is that the C column is actually the column with the birthdays, and the birthdays are from row 5 down to row 9, and the H is in the D column. So this is what we're going to need. And first of all, we're going to import openpyxl again, and we're also going to import datetime as DT. And we're going to open the workbook. So we're going to say workbook equals openpyxl load workbook example.xlsx, and then sheet equals workbook.active. And now we're just going to say for row in range 5 to 10. 10 because if you say range 5 to 10, this basically means 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The 10 is not included, the 5 is. This is just how the range function works. And then we're just going to get the date. So we're going to say for each row, give me the date, which is going to be sheet, and an F string of C and the row number, and we want to get the value. Now, you might think that you're going to get a string, but the good thing about this module is that you're actually going to already get a date, so you don't even need to process a string and turn it into a date. You're already going to get the date from the cell. In addition to that, we're going to say dt.datetime.now. This is going to be today, and the age is going to be calculated as today year minus date year, and we're going to subtract today. We're going to subtract if today month and today date is less than date month and date day. So this would subtract one additional year, which takes into account that we actually have the birthday today. So this is just for the edge cases. But this is how we calculate the age. And now we just say sheet d, d row, it's an F string, is going to be the age. And of course, in the end, don't forget to say workbook.save example xlsx. And of course, every time you do that, make a backup, because if you screw up your code, you screw up your Excel file, and there's not really a way to recover it. So make sure, I'm opening up the Excel file without running the code. That's not very intelligent. Let's run the code. Just make sure you make backups every time. Now let's open the Excel file, and you will be able to hopefully see that we have the ages here. Does it make sense? Yes, it makes sense. 1999, 21, because the birthday is on the 23rd, which is 2 days from now. So if we change this to 21 and rerun the script, this person should be 22 already. Let's open this up again. And you can see the person is 22. So one more thing that I would like to do here is, if we look at the file, we can see that we have the net worth in US dollars. Let's say I don't want to have it in US dollars. I want to have it in euros based on the current exchange rate. If I want to do that, I can do this in Python easily. I'm not saying that you cannot do it in Excel. Maybe you can, maybe you cannot. But you can definitely do that in Python easily. And for this, we're going to use the pandas data reader. So we're going to say import pandas. And of course, for this, we need to install the pandas data reader. So cmd pip install pandas minus data reader. And you can use whatever you want. You can use web scraping. You can use an API. You can use the Forex Python module. The problem with the Forex Python module as of right now is that it doesn't work because of some changes in the Yahoo Finance API, which I think it is using. So for me, it produced some errors, which is why I use the pandas data reader. And what we're going to do is we're going to say import pandas underscore data reader. This is important. You install pandas dash data reader, but you import pandas underscore data reader. We're going to import it as web. And down here, we're going to say, first of all, USD to euro is going to be web.get data from thread. And this is why it probably works, because it's not the Yahoo Finance API. And all major problems at the moment are coming from there. So if we use thread, we're going to get, at the moment at least, no problems. And the string that we need for the exchange rate in particular for US dollars and euros is DEX/USEU. Now, if you want to know your string for another currency, you can just look up the thread. You can look up the thread website and see what the tickers are for your specific thing. We are interested in the last position, so in the most recent value, and we're going to have to one more time access the column. So DEX/USEU, and this gives us the exchange rate. And for this, what we need to do here is we need to say sheet FE row, E because the net worth is in the E column, is going to be what it is at the moment. So E row, what it is at the moment, so the value of that divided by the exchange rate. So in order to convert from dollars to euros, you have to divide. In order to get from euros to dollars, you have to multiply. So that is it. And we can now change the number format of this cell as well. So we can say sheet FE row is going to be, or not going to be, it's going to be dot number format. And the format, I'm not sure how the format works. I think this is Excel specific, but the format that we use here in order to get a euro formatting is hashtag, comma, hashtag, hashtag 0.00 euro. That is how we get that format. And by doing that, we should be able to convert into euros. Let's see. I think it's taking a while because of the web request. Now it's done, and let's see what we have in the Excel file. We have the values converted to euro. Now we can convert them back if the rate didn't change. We should see the same values as before, so we can just go and say times, and we can change this to dollar. And if I run this, we should be able to see that we have the same values, or at least something approximating the same values. Let's see what Excel says. There you go. We have the same values as before in a different format though, I think. But that's fine. This is how you manipulate, how you automate your Excel, how you manipulate Excel files and how you automate your Excel procedures using Python. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.